Hey everybody, what's going on? So we're back talking about a 50mm lens that was just announced about a week ago at the time of this recording. I'm very fortunate to get in my hands for a few days only. But here are my thoughts on the all-new 51.2 Sony G Master lens with the Sony Alpha 1. Let's talk about it. Now, before we kick off this review, I do want to thank Sony Singapore for providing the lens and the camera. Having said that, I do not own these products. We're not paid or sponsored for this review. These are my thoughts and my thoughts only. This camera and lens are going back to Sony tonight. So it's a short-lived love affair, and a love affair it is, because this lens with the Alpha 1 is a beautiful combination. That's just the Cliff Notes version of this review. It is phenomenal. Anyway, let's take a step back, because we've got a few more minutes into this review. Let's talk about the lens and let's talk about the design of it. The design, of course, is very reminiscent of the 35-1.4, the 24-1.4, and other Sony G Master lenses, but this 51.2 is the smallest 51.2 I think I've seen out of all the autofocus 50s out there. It is lightweight, coming in around 778 grams, but it is very compact for being 1.2, because usually with 1.2, there's a lot of glass, and there's a lot of glass in this, but the Sony engineers decided to flex their muscles a little bit and say, okay, Nikon, okay, Canon, you got your 51.2s. Somebody was saying we can't do a 51.2? Ha, here we go. This lens is a beast. But outside of it is great. You got your autofocusing buttons here. You got a click and declick switch on this as well. So if you want to declick that aperture, you can do so, but you cannot lock the aperture, okay? So that's something that is, I think, relegated to Sigma currently at this time. Your autofocus and manual focus switch. The aperture ring has a nice click to it. The focusing ring is very smooth. There's no hard stop to the focusing ring, so do keep that in mind. And that's essentially the 51.2. Okay, so let's talk about what is inside of this lens. Now, you have 4 XD linear motors, which gives this lens a very fast autofocusing system. Other reviewers have said this. I will back up those claims. This is extremely fast, probably the fastest 50mm autofocusing lens I've seen to date. Now you have 3 XA elements, which are extreme spherical elements. So you're gonna get a lot of that correction that you want, it's sharpness. You're not gonna get a lot of the flaring or purple fringing. You will get a little bit when you shoot in extreme conditions, but it's easily correctable. But this lens performs beautifully, especially at 1.2. Then of course you've got your special fluorine and nano AR coatings to the lens as well. So you're getting the best of the best from Sony. Now we'll put the other specs here at the bottom of the display for you, but to cut things short, it's fantastic. It's phenomenal. It focuses quick. The image quality is beautiful. The bokeh is beautiful. You got 11 bladed aperture around this. It is stunning. This lens is absolutely stunning. And I would say that this is a photographer's lens first and foremost. Yes, it does video, but you'll see in just a bit, we'll do a sample with it, that the focusing, you will get a little breathing out of this lens versus others out there, because this is designed for photographers only, in my personal opinion. So for you guys out there who want to do nice portraiture shoots, you want a 50 to walk around, do street photography with, or you want something great for low light, you're going to be very happy with this lens. And to me, this is the beginning of a 1.2 relationship Sony's going to have with the customers out there, because if they can do this with a 50, why can't they do it with an 85? And you know, the 85-1.4 isn't due of a refresh. Wouldn't it be nice if Sony came out with an 85-1.2? Now, I'm just guessing, nobody's told me these things, but based on what they did with this lens, it just seems reasonable that's what they're going to be doing next. And it pairs beautifully with the Alpha 1, which I think Sony wants to have this new generation of lenses. They want them to perform at their optimal. And of course, with the Alpha 1 that has so much power and so much speed in this camera system, the older lenses aren't going to keep up like these newer lenses are going to. And so I have a feeling this year is going to be a big year for Sony in terms of cameras, of course the Alpha 1, but also lenses. I'm hearing there's rumors of other lenses coming out very soon. I have no information on at the time of this recording. But if they've done a 51.2, the 85-1.4 isn't due of a refresh. It would be nice that I'd have an 85-1.2 G Master lens. And to be frank with you, this is almost the same size as the 85-1.4. And this is a 1.2. It's been a joy to use over the past few days, and actually I went to a dirt bike track and mountain bike trails to actually photograph some riders doing some jumps and doing some stunts, which I'll show you a bit in Lightroom. To give you proof of performance on this lens, because a lot of people are just shooting portraiture. But what is it like for fast action? Let's find out right now. Let's go to Lightroom and let's check out these images. All right, guys, we're now in Lightroom taking a look at images from the f1.2 GM lens. And as I mentioned in this review, I did take this to a dirt bike park to capture mountain bikers, dirt bike riders taking the hills and just riding around because I wanted to see how this lens performed with action. We saw a lot of sample photos already out there on the web in terms of bokeh and depth of field. We know what a 1.2 lens will deliver in that regards. How does this capture action, especially with these fast autofocusing motors? Here we go. First off, portrait shot here. This is of a guy here just giving the profile shot here at 1.2. Give it a second to render here because these images are around 300 megabytes. At the time that I was testing this lens, this review is a little bit delayed, folks. There was no support in Lightroom to read the raw files, so I actually had to convert them into TIFF files and then bring them in here. So it's gonna take some time for these images to render. This one has already done it. As you can see in the Oakleys right here that he's wearing, you can see the reflections, the details here, the texture on his skin, the helmet, the texture on his shirt. I mean, this is fantastic at ISO 125. Here's another shot of this gentleman right here. And this is a portrait shot. I just want to capture him and give me a thumbs up. This was shot at 1.2 as well, but at ISO 2500 on the Alpha 1. And just to zoom in on this, look at the details. You can see the sweat on his nose bridge, the eyes, the eyebrows. And I'm a little bit of a ways from him, right? But this is ISO 2500. So not only is the lens really good, but the Alpha 1 is fantastic, especially at higher ISO performance. So I mentioned that in my previous review, but good to just, bring it back into the fold again. But let's look at some action here. This was probably one of my favorite shots I took of the day, and this was early on, and I wanted to get that pan shot, because pan shots are not the easiest to do, especially with these guys that are flying. I mean, they're moving really quickly. And this guy, his name is Lucas, very talented mountain biker. And you'll see some other shots of him in a second because he was one of the ones that was willing to just do whatever it was for the photos. And he was really, really nice. But anyway, this was shot at ISO 125, 50 millimeters, 5.6, 1/80th of a second. I'm proud of myself here, folks, for the ability to capture most of this in focus. We zoom in on him. His face is in focus, actually just giving it a moment to render again a 300 megabyte file. Everything had to be shot in RAW and converted to TIFF, so it does take some time, but I'm really happy with this shot. Here's another shot of this gentleman on the Santa Cruz mountain bike, and this was shot at 1.4. ISO 125. Again, I normally wouldn't shoot action at wide open apertures this way, but to test this lens, I did so, and it performed beautifully. You can see the textures in his shirt, his jeans, everything. I mean, it's really, really impressive. Here's Lucas again, doing a lot of different stunts with me, taking his foot off the pedals as he's in midair, and I'll show you another shot of that in just a second, what he's doing. Here's one as well. It looks easy when you're just capturing a moment at 30 frames per second with this lens, but trust me, this takes skill, it takes balance, knowing where your body is in middle of the air, because you got to put your foot on the pedal and land and not crash. This guy, Lucas, did it beautifully time and time again. And this was shot at 1.6 at ISO 125 and fantastic. Again, if you want to see what it looked like before edit, this is what it looked like before edit. Here's after edit, before edit, after edit. So I just sort of boosted up the exposure here and the shadows just to capture more of the detail, but it's all there in the image. Here's another gentleman that was trying out this jump here. This was at the beginning of the jump. As he's going in the air, does a little bit of a lean. Unfortunately, this gentleman, as he landed, busted a spoke on his wheel. He didn't fall, he was okay. But, when you're doing these kind of jumps in mountain biking, it's not easy. But hats off to him for doing that, and he was a big trooper for us, so we really appreciate it. So all these guys did get the photos, by the way, if you're wondering. We did get their contact information and send these photos over to them so they could post on their respective social media channels. So that's something that we like to do with a group of photographers that I work with, because it's just giving back. And, if we can, help someone out and give them a really cool photograph, and not everybody's got an Alpha 1, not everybody's got the 51.2 GM lens. So, a little bit of flex here and there is not too bad at all, but look at the details on the bike. You see the reflections in here, the sharpness in his beard, everything. And this was shot at 1.2, guys. No joke. Really, really impressive. Here's another shot of that. but I think you get the gist of it. Now, here's a tip for you guys out there that want to shoot action this way. I realized my hit rate was much better when I went to zone focusing. Yes, I had the eye tracking enabled, and I did try the tracking as well. And with expandable spot, I was hit and miss with the tracking because of the position where I was at to the mountain bikers as they were jumping. Sometimes I was very close and they were just moving too quick. So I found that zone focusing was giving me a better hit rate. But that's the thing with the Alpha 1. There's many different modes that you can adapt the camera to. Whatever position you're in, you're gonna nail the shot. I was very happy with my hit rate as soon as I went to zone focusing with it. Anyway, let's move on to some other images here. This was the shot I took at nighttime. Just showing in terms of the lens. We call it the Singapore Flyer. It's a large Ferris wheel. This was actually, I was taking a photo of this. It's not normally red and blue here, but this was the premiere of the Falcon and the Winter Soldier. So they were actually premiering the episodes in each of the capsules respectively as we're going around, which is really cool. Here's another shot from the capsule. This is of the Marina Bay area in Singapore. And this is the Art Science Museum at Marina Bay Sands. Here's the shopping mall. The towers are right here, but you don't see them in this shot. And of course, here is our business district right there. So just thought it was a really cool shot in terms of capturing low light performance at f1.4, ISO 1000. Through a window, and very happy with it. So overall, as you can see through these images, this is just a fantastic lens. It's sharp, it focuses really well. It is one of my favorite 1.2 lenses on the market currently. It just really impressed me. So now let's test out some video with the 51.2 on the Alpha 1. So as you just saw in Lightroom, the quality of image coming out of this lens and the camera are absolutely phenomenal. And this is, I mean, I love the Alpha 1. I've already said that in my previous review, and this lens is fantastic as well. Now we're actually showing you video out of the Alpha 1 with the 51.2 at 1.2. Obviously, you can tell by the bokeh behind me that I'm complete. This is all blown out. There's a lot of Tonelli in this video. But I want to show you in terms of tracking performance, how it is like as I move around on this. So just going to test a little bit, Kai-Hong. How is it okay so far? Am I in focus? Now I'll actually get a little closer to see how this goes. Back up, eye tracking in full display. All right. This is pretty much the 51.2 as a video lens. Now, some people will complain a little bit about focus breathing, but of course you can control that depending on how you utilize the lens. But for walking and talking, things like I'm doing right here, there's no problem at all with that. Now, if you are gonna be doing some sort of creative video that the focus breathing is gonna be an issue, then there's something you might need to take in consideration. But I would think for a lot of you out there that are just gonna do video like this, it's more than adequate, but I don't think you probably want to shoot at 1.2. You might want to stop it down a little bit because this bokeh is a little bit extreme. Even though it looks good, it's a little extreme. Anyway, my final thoughts on the lens, I love it. As I mentioned before a couple times in this review, this is my favorite 50mm autofocusing lens right now as of 2021. Last year was, of course, the Nikkor 51.2. That was a very large lens, but fantastic image quality. This rivals that image quality, but at a smaller package and less expensive as well. So Sony has not only delivered on optical in terms of image quality, but they've also delivered in terms of price. So you gotta hand it to Sony for this one. They are really out to win this mirrorless game, and I think they're on their way to do it for 2021. But anyway, those are my thoughts on the lens. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Like always, follow us on Facebook, subscribe to us on YouTube. Be safe out there, and I'll chat to you soon. Take care.